you'd be able to get the updated version and download. I also was committing a couple things yesterday, so we have all the code there already with the tags. Remember, in top right, there is a tag matching the code that is in the Git repo in case you want to go there immediately and just copy the code or take a look if you're not going to follow the workshop in your environment, which I would recommend. So today, we are going to read and save some data, read the data using the ORM. We'll go through how the ORM reads the data, finders, etc. And we're going to save some data. We're going to go over controllers views. We're going to spam some users. And then we have an extra ball, if we have the time, to cover specific topics that could be interesting, maybe. So, reading data. This is one of the major changes in Cake 3. All the ORM layer was refactored, and we now have a way to read data more powerful, a way to use or configure a query object using one of the methods that you see there on the right. They are not there, or they are all not there, but just to have an example on things we could do today or to explain today. There are basically, well, there are several ways, but the first one could be using get option in the table class. The get is useful when you already know the ID. So you know the ID of whatever you want to retrieve, you just pass the ID and any array of options to it. Then we have the find operation. Well, the get operation will return an entity by itself because you already know the ID. The find operation will return a query object. So you can then configure this query object through all the rest of the application, callbacks, events, etc. And once you need the first the first result, the ORM will execute the query, return the results, convert those results into entities, and return the entities or the result set or whatever you're asking to. So we have types for the find, and basically there are core types like all, list, threaded, etc. And then we have then we can pass a custom type or a custom finder, and he will look for a method in the table class that matches the name of the custom finder. I think Jose covered a custom finder yesterday in the advanced session in the afternoon. So I'm gonna just go through it and explain later. Then you can run first on the query object, return the first entity. It will execute the query and return the first entity in case it is not there already. You can run you can use toArray to return an array of entities, and you can use count to return an integer with the count of all the entities matching the query. Then you have a way to define dynamic finders, like this one below, find by active. It is going to use some magic to build the conditions for the find. So if it detects by active in this case, it will consider you are gonna filter by the active column in that entity and create the filters for you on the fly. Okay. You could say find by active or created, and then pass two params, and it will build the where in this case, following those, the order of the params and the name of the function you use. And then there is contain or containable, available by default, included or integrated in the ORM. You don't need to use a behavior anymore for using containable, and it also uses a powerful way to define the conditions on the contained objects. We will cover an example about containable in a bit. So these are examples of two queries. We have the first one. We are getting a query object from the campaigns table. Then we are selecting only two fields, the name and the status for the campaign. Then we are filtering by the status, all the campaigns that are not new. Then we are using order and limit to retrieve only 10 results. In this case, the latest, the 10 results ordered by the name of the campaign, okay? The way to write the queries is almost matching the same words, and you could have to write a query in SQL as well. So if you know what you're going to do in SQL, is much intuitive or straightforward to do it on using the ORM right away. In this case, for example, the first debug line, query all, would return the result set of whatever you're getting. The second, query to array, would return an array of entities. The third one, query count, an integer. And the fourth, an entity, right? And containable is included. So, well, it's a pity, but recursive is no more. This is one of the most loved features in the in the framework. I spent like half an hour trying to explain that on the CakePHP 2 training session. And with containable, you have the ability to pick whatever you need. For example, you could get all the users for all the mailing lists, for all the completed campaigns, like that, okay? You could say, find, contain, where, and where, in the where, we're filtering by the campaign, and then contain allows us to use either an array notation or a string notation like that with dots, so we can just specify the tree of associations we want to retrieve. It will get all of them unless we define some conditions to retrieve one or the other at any level of the contain. We can take a look at this, for example, and play a bit with containable if you want. For example, I'm gonna let's do this example. We can get or we could try to get, instead of getting all the users, we could get all the users for the example.com domain. Okay, so let's do this example. We're gonna get all the campaign, all the completed campaigns. We will get all the mailing lists, but we will get only users that are or that belongs to the example.com domain, which email belongs to the example.com domain. How could we do this? Well, let me get back to the code and quickly do this as an example. Obviously, the best way for that would be the campaigns table, the campaigns controller. Like there, we can create some dummy test function here. And say this render false, because we don't want to. We want a layout, but we don't want, or we don't need any view. We're just going to debug a couple things, and then we could do this campaigns find and passing the contain right away. Like that. Okay, so we are using the tables, the campaigns table reference that is in the controller. We are using the find method to get a query object for that table. Then we are using contain, and we are passing an array. The array is indexed by the first association that we want to retrieve, that is a mailing list. And for each mailing list, we want to retrieve all the users that are matching these conditions. So in this case, the conditions for the users are the email is like this, ends in example.com. Yep. If we are also using hydrate false as an example, so we don't want to get entities. We just want to get the results as an array. We don't want to hydrate those entities, and we just want the raw array with the data coming from the database, because we need to do something with that later. And we are using toArray to execute the query and return the array of results. If we debug this, and run it, we have, well, I already started the server and everything. Look at, the thing is, it is in another screen, but okay, the server is started. Remember to start a server if you want to see anything. Okay, so let's change this. Use the newsletter, because we were in a we are in a plugin, the newsletter plugin. We use campaigns, queries. It's not that mail. Queries, campaigns, typo. Where's the typo?
Campaigns.
Yeah. Cam. Like that? Yeah. Cool. So there is a result. Remember, we are not hydrating the result, so we get an array with some data inside. This is the campaign with all the data for the campaign. Then we have all the mailing lists associated to the campaign, and recursively inside each mailing list, we will have the array with all the users associated with each mailing list, and filter by those finishing in example.com. Okay. If there are no users or there are no mailing lists, we're going to retrieve the campaign and the mailing list as well. We're using a left join, and it is not filtering the whole thing. It is just filtering at the level you specify the conditions. That's the difference between contain and matching. That matching is the other way you can retrieve, or you can filter the parent association using some conditions in some part of the subtree of associations below that one. I understand Jose is going to cover matching extensively later. I think we have an example for that later as well, so I'm not going to stop there on matching. Just if you have any question. about contain. We can discuss it now. There is another syntax you could use for contain that is using a callable as well to using a function to define the conditions or any other thing you want to define for that specific level, something like this. Instead of having this, you could have here a function with a query and, well, return whatever configuration you want to do to the query, where, whatever. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Would it be worth showing using use as well, so you can pass it in?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's a good idea. So imagine that you want to filter by some specific email, or you want to get only users with one specific email. Let's say the email is this one. Okay. Or some other conditions you could have. Then you could use here email. So the email is available in the context of this function, and you can use it to pass here, for example, like that. Okay. Questions? Any other things?
So will it do an inner join? Like if there are no users, that no campaigns are found?
No. Yeah. Go ahead, please. I don't know if you're finished. You're asking if if contain will return any campaign if there is no user with this configuration or with this restriction?
Will it still find all campaigns?
Yes.
Even if there are no users?
Yes, exactly. There is another method or another way you can filter results in the ORM that is using matching instead of contain here. You can use matching, then pass, for example, mailing lists and a function like this, and return query where name cool mailing list. Okay, so in this case, matching will inner join with the mailing lists and will filter the parent, that is the campaigns. But contain will not. Contain will use a left join instead to get anything if it is. If it is not, just get nothing, get an empty array in this case, because we're using hydrate false. That's kind of the difference between them, okay? Keep in mind as well that matching will not retrieve by default the filtered association. You will need to specifically contain that to return in the result set. I mean, it is there because there is a property where you can see. Well, we can run this query actually. Well, we're not gonna find anything with this. I don't know if, well, I'm not gonna run it because I don't even remember if the mailing list has a name property. So, but you will have a way to know what matching condition or what was the matching association that you were using to retrieve the or is associated with each entity you're retrieving. Okay. Again, we're gonna cover a more complete example with matching later, and I understand as well that maybe later in the advanced workshop also matching will be covered. I don't know if that's true, but I for sure Jose has some plans on doing this possibly with the collections as well. Okay. Any other questions? Nope.
Maybe you can say there's a belongs to many connection. This contain produces a join data subarray where the join table can be seen. To extend this and this moment to something.
You mean if I, for example, the campaign belongs to the template? You mean if I use contain here?
If you use contain on a belongs to many connection.
Oh, in a belongs to many? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, like this one. So you mean that we could take a look at our resulting query, for example, and see that, well, yeah, you will generate more or several queries to retrieve all the related data. Yeah.
And you receive join data subarray for
Mm-hmm.
the join table.
You mean you want to configure how?
No, I just want to extend.
Okay, okay.
That.
Okay. Yes. Well, yeah, we could go deep. Do you want me to extend this? I could get a look at the queries generated, etc. So I don't know if this one is. Well, hopefully it's gonna work. Yeah. This one. Okay. Okay, so this is the, well, obviously we're checking schemas, etc. Okay, this is basically, if you take a look at the debug kit, you will, if you take a look at the debug kit, you will find a list of all the queries generated. For example, you can, well, let me try to reload this so we get rid of the unnecessary queries. Okay, in this case, we're first selecting the campaigns. Then for all the campaigns, we select the mailing lists in this case. Then we select the users associated to each mailing list. And here we apply the conditions. In this case, we are using and email as a condition, and we are also passing the mailing list IDs retrieved from the previous query. Okay. So this is the amount of queries or the set of queries generated when you use contain, and based on the conditions you pass, and also based on the previous associations already retrieved. As you can see here, if you have a long tree or you're trying to get a long tree of things using contain, you should expect a lot of queries as well, because this could grow a lot. So it's good to take a look at the queries generated in case the contain query you're designing is not going to be performant for the specific case you're looking for. Okay. I don't know if this answers your question. No? Yes? Well, okay, yeah.
Can you find me a list of campaigns based on some specific template? For example, if some
Okay,
template is timed to run on Sunday,
yeah.
can you find me?
So, but you wanna list all the campaigns based on a specific template?
Yes.
Is not going to work this way because contain will get the campaign anyways. I mean, contain will always return the campaigns, but the template in this case will be retrieved. Well, in this case, I understand because it is a belongs to and is inner, it will be filtered as well. Let me check that. So the example we were talking about was this one. We want to use, or we want also to restrict here with templates and bring also the templates based on a given condition. Let's say conditions. And name, announcement. I don't know. I don't remember the template name. We'll see. And rerun this query. So yeah. So because it is and I think I understand what you were meaning possibly about the belongs to and the inner. Yeah. The thing here is campaigns belongs to templates. If we go and check the association here, you will see, like here, you will see campaign belongs to templates and the join type is inner. So if we filter by templates because it is building using an inner join, it will not return the campaign as well. Okay. Using contain. Make sense? Yeah. Cool. Great. So, saving data. The save operation workflow will always ensure that what we are trying to save in the database is passing the validation. Remember, we have two validation types, the entity level validation and the business level validation with build rules. So before we save anything in the database, and the save operation allows you to save entities in the database, so you will need to build the entity first before saving it. The save operation will check if the validation is okay. If it is not okay, the save operation will return false. And you can get the array of errors indexed by the field in the entity errors function. Okay. Then we have we will save first the belongs to. Hello. We will save first the belongs to associations, then the modified fields on the entity itself, and then the has many, has one, or belongs to many associations, in case you are saving an entity and associated entities as well. The save many operation is also available. If you have an array of entities and you want to save them all, you can use save many, and basically save many will wrap all the save operations inside a transactional block. So it is an all or nothing, and also it will basically iterate over the collection of entities you're passing to save many. You can always have, or you can always use transactional to define a transaction and do several save operations in the middle, and then control if you want a rollback or not the full transaction. When we save, we can also set the validate option to false, and we don't validate at all. Or we can specify a validator. Remember, we have validation default, or in this case, we have validation default. We can specify as one validator when we create the entity, the new or patch entity, to associate or to pass the entity through that specific validator. Maybe you want to have a validation for users when the users are about to be registered, and another validation when the users are already there in the system and you're just changing a password or whatever. So we are going to do a couple simple examples on saving things. I'm not going to do this one. I'm going to explain this one, and then we can do another example and play with it, saving associated entities, so you can see how it is being done. Yeah?
I just want one question. We are saying data structure where you have campaign and let's say a few as many objects, and let's say only one as many object is not saved properly. Does the whole save gets rolled back, or only for that some of the has many? So how is the validation process working there?
Okay. You mean for the save many operation or for the save operation?
Or save one, but I have a user which has 10 phone numbers, and each phone number is
Mm-hmm. Well, save is all or nothing. So if anything is not correctly validated in any of the associated objects there inside, nothing will be saved, and you will get errors. You will get a false and errors where you can display the errors.
Unless you turn atomic off. You turn atomic off, you're screwed. You'll just insert records and you're stuck. Because by default, atomic is turned on, so it doesn't use transactions. But if you don't use transactions, or if you're using ionic indicators, you're on your own.
Yeah, that is an important comment as well, that the engine you're using must allow transactions. If you are using MyISAM, or you're just saying the engine, hey, don't or don't use transactions for any reason, then you need to manage those errors by your own. Okay. So before getting into callbacks, let's play with a simple example, saving associated data. I'm gonna do campaigns as well. And user controllers. Okay. So in this example, we are first creating an entity for a specific campaign. And when we create a new entity, we can use the associated option, like I think we covered yesterday as well, to specify as well to the marshaller, hey, I want you to build the entity for the campaign, but also build the entities for the association templates that you have defined in the campaigns table. So in this case, because campaigns belongs to template, we use template and we use it singular here. Belongs to is using a singular instead of the plural word. And we pass a subject and the body. So when the campaign entity is generated by the marshaller, we will get a campaign entity, and inside we will get a template key with a template entity as well. Okay, you can see that here in this line. And then we're checking that the entity had no errors while building. We're using save operation, and we are passing an entity. And we can debug whatever was saved here. Let's see what happens with the save example 2. Should add a new campaign. We have only one campaign, and oh, is dash it? Without S? Oh, thank you. Okay, so bad thing, because the name, the subject, and the body and the template is required. So name, subject, and body. What was generated here? What? Huh? Oh, sorry. This is not what I want to do. This is what I want to do. Campaigns and save example 2. Okay. So this is what we get. We get a campaign, we get a template, some name. Oh, it's not good. It's not good. Okay. What happened? Huh? Yeah. Too much arrays. Why? Because remember, this is a belongs to association, so we don't need to pass an array for it. It would make sense to pass an array if it would be has many, for example, because the marshal would be expecting an array of things there. But in this case, it is expecting just one thing. That is the template. Not too much. Okay. So now there are no errors, but we get a false here in campaigns controller. So this line is returning false. What happened? Well, we check what happened, no problem. This is what happened. So, a problem with the validation. It's not creating a new campaign in this case. What do you think? Let's debug that. So, Disallow an empty on to create. The entity looks good, but the validation, and this is a problem in the build rules, this rule is breaking. Campaign table. Okay, this is the rule that is breaking it, because why? Yeah, well, it's new, exactly. I mean, remember what we discussed in the slide before? The save operation will try first to save the belongs to many entity, then we'll try to save the entity itself, and then, so this shouldn't happen, right? Because we should have a template saved first, and then save the next one. Should we debug this? I think so, right? Any clues on that? I have no idea what happened, honestly. You guys have an idea? We're saving a belongs to many, but maybe we need to specify this. Am I wrong on this example? This is what are we trying to do? This, and it is failing here. Huh?
Yeah. Go to 3.2.10. Yeah, I did
the release yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
it's an issue in 3.2.10.
It's either 2.8 or 2.9.
Don't push versions while I'm in the middle of a workshop, please.